Hello. So in this writing notes video, I'm going to give you another teaching strategy. This time it's not actually oriented toward classroom activities. This time I'm going to talk about the way that I approach creating a schedule for a class, particularly a writing heavy class, like a first year writing course or business writing course, or if I ever taught like tech writing or something like that. So especially for early career instructors, and especially for people like me who are not really Ret Comp people, who are trained as lit scholars, but get thrust into teaching Ret Comp because of the quirks of the American university system. One of the challenging components of planning a course initially can be creating a schedule, especially if you work at an institution that requires you to have a full semester schedule. So, and I think that's actually most schools. Like, of the places that I've taught, West Virginia University and Penn State both require a full semester schedule. University of Vermont was actually really, I think they had a great system. I don't know if it's changed since I was working there, but in that system, you had the deadlines for all of your projects listed in the syllabus, but then you gave out the schedule project by project, which allowed a tremendous amount of flexibility in terms of what you needed to cover when you introduced different concepts and things like that. So you could adjust the schedule very easily based on what your students needed to know. But I think that's the exception rather than the norm. So typically what you have to do is create a schedule for the entire semester, and that can be extremely daunting. So some tips for approaching this. The first thing that I always do when I'm creating a schedule for a comp course, for a rhetoric course, business writing course, whatever it is, start at the end. I know it seems counterintuitive, but you start at the end. Last day first. And the reason for that is that you know what happens then. The last project is due, you have the course wrap up, whatever it is. So that final day, you know where that falls. Then go back to the first day, because that's introductions, go over the syllabus, whatever it is. That's simple and straightforward. Then I go to the middle of the semester. Well, okay, so put a pin in that for a second. If I have an even number of projects, like if I have 4 projects, go to the middle of the semester, that's midterm. Okay, my second project is due then. Quarter of the way in first project, 3/4 of the way in third project. Now, if you've got 5 projects, 6 projects, something like this, it gets a little bit fuzzier, a little bit hazier, but typically a lot of programs will have a final and a midterm that you absolutely need to do. So that's one of the easiest ways to start building your schedule. If that's not the case, if you, like, I've got 5 projects this semester that my students are doing. So what you do is you figure 15-week schedule, 16-week schedule. We have this semester we have 15 weeks. Sometimes we have 16, but this semester we have 15 and 5 projects. So on average, that's 3 weeks per project. One of the difficulties is that I don't like doing much project work the first week because we have the add drop period. So students can cycle in, they can cycle out, which means if you start doing a bunch of work in the first week and you get a bunch of new students by Friday, you may have to recover that ground. And I'm opposed to doing that personally. So for me, the first week is mostly introduction, learning about the course, and learning about the foundations of the kind of writing we're doing, whether that's general rhetoric business writing, whatever it is. Foundational material. Then in the second week, or at the end of the first week, you really launch into the first project. And with five projects, 15 weeks, the first week for me is devoted to sort of foundational course material and rhetoric, composition, business writing, whatever it is, material. So that gives me 14 weeks to work on 5 projects. So one project only gets 2 weeks. So you have to figure out what's the most condensed project, or what's the one I can have students work on in the least time. But the first thing that you do in your schedule, for my money, is you put in your project due dates every couple of weeks, every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it is with your schedule. And then you think of each project as a discrete unit. If you have short assignments within those projects, like if they have to turn in planning workshops or proposals or something like that, if they have to do peer review, that's the second thing that goes in, is you schedule those things in. And then the last thing that you do, well, okay, I take that back, not the last thing you do. Then the next thing that you do, so the first thing is you put in major assignment deadlines, then you put in minor assignment deadlines, then you put in the day-to-day activities. And the key to this, for me, is you say, all right, what are the things that they absolutely need to know to succeed at this project? Those are your first priorities. So if you're teaching a rhetorical evaluation project, they absolutely need to know the rhetorical appeals, ethos, pathos, and logos. You may say, I think they absolutely need to know rhetorical methods of development, or they absolutely need to know logical fallacies. They absolutely need to know thesis statements. Whatever it is, whatever things you are primarily going to focus on when you're grading them, those are the things that they need to know. And so you put those into the schedule. And you put those into the schedule starting from the highest priority thing and working your way down. So what's the most important thing they need to know? Something that's going to be fundamental in this rhetorical evaluation. They absolutely need to know rhetorical appeals. That's day 1. Then I'm really grading them on thesis statements. They need to know that. That's day 2. Then I think it's crucial that they know rhetorical methods of development. That's day 3, and so on and so on. So that's the way you think about it. You think about what are the most important things, and you give them the most crucial things first and move to the least crucial things toward the end of that project. If you have days left over, you can include other lessons. So for me, if I have extra days, I may do a lesson on conclusions, which is not something that I normally think is crucial enough that I need to spend that time on it. But it's something that's useful for them to know. And then the last thing that you do is you put in the homework. And the homework, I mean, you have readings, you may have videos, activities, whatever it is, intended to set them up for the lesson that they're going to learn the next day. So the class period before they're going to learn rhetorical appeals, you assign them the chapter in the textbook on rhetorical appeals, or whatever it is that you're doing. So that's the structure that I follow when creating a schedule, and I think it's the most effective approach. Is you start by putting in major assignments, then you put in minor assignments, then you determine the day-to-day lessons based on most important to least important things they need to know for that specific project, and then you put in the homework.